In a world filled with noise, some books still whisper ideas powerful enough to change the way we think. Welcome to Bookaffeine, your daily dose of clarity, insight, and timeless wisdom. Put on your headphones, grab your coffee, take a deep breath, and let this book speak to you. What if I told you that the most powerful people in the room are usually the quietest ones? Not because they are afraid, not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand something most people never learn. They understand that every reaction costs you something: your peace, your clarity, your power. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you reacted instantly to a comment, a message, a look, a tone of voice, and only later wished you had paused, wished you had stayed silent, wished you had chosen differently? This book explores a simple idea, one that sounds almost too easy to matter. But once you understand it, it quietly changes how you move through the world. That idea is this: you do not have to react. Not every emotion needs an answer. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every situation requires your energy. And the moment you realize that, everything shifts. The power of not reacting is not about becoming cold. It's not about suppressing emotions. And it's certainly not about pretending you don't care. It's about learning how to regain control in a world that constantly tries to steal it from you. Because most people live in reaction mode. They react to other people's moods, other people's opinions, other people's behavior. And without noticing, they hand over the steering wheel of their life. This book offers a different path, a calmer one, a stronger one, a more deliberate one. It teaches you how to pause, how to choose, and how to respond from clarity instead of impulse. Let's begin with something uncomfortable. Most reactions don't come from strength. They come from ego. Why we react. When someone criticizes you, what rises first? Not logic, not wisdom. It's a surge. A tightening in the chest, a rush of heat, a need to defend, explain, attack, or justify. That's not you thinking. That's your nervous system firing. Your ego doesn't want truth. It wants protection, and it reacts fast because it's afraid. Afraid of looking weak, afraid of losing control, afraid of being misunderstood. But here's the paradox. The faster you react, the less power you have. Because reactions are predictable. And anything predictable can be manipulated. Imagine two people in a heated conversation. One raises their voice. They interrupt. They push. The other stays calm. They listen. They pause before speaking. Who has the power? It's never the loudest person. It's the one who can sit with discomfort without being controlled by it. Not reacting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means creating space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you reclaim your freedom. Because once you stop reacting automatically, you start acting intentionally. Most people think control means dominance, but real control is internal. If someone can insult you and instantly change your mood, if a message can ruin your entire day, if a situation can pull you into anger without permission, then ask yourself honestly, who's in charge? The book makes this painfully clear. If you don't control your reactions, someone else will. In the next part,
We'll explore why silence is often more powerful than words, why emotional restraint is misunderstood as weakness, and how the most successful people in history used non-reaction as a strategy, not a flaw. For now, sit with this thought. Every time you don't react, you win something invisible, but priceless. Your self-respect, your clarity, your power. Why reacting gives away your power. There's a quiet reason why reacting feels so natural. It's not because it's wise. It's because it's familiar. From a very young age, most of us are conditioned to believe that speed equals strength. Answer quickly. Defend immediately. Explain yourself before you're misunderstood. But the book challenges this deeply ingrained habit. It asks a dangerous question. What if your urge to react is not intelligence, but conditioning? The cost of reacting. Every reaction has a price. You may not see it immediately, but it's always there. Reacting costs you emotional energy, mental clarity, and often, dignity. Think about the last time you reacted impulsively. Maybe it was an argument, a message that triggered you, a comment that felt disrespectful. In that moment, did your reaction improve the situation? Or did it pull you deeper into it? Most reactions don't solve problems, they multiply them.
Imagine someone criticizes you publicly. Your instinct screams, "Correct them! Defend yourself! Say something!" So you do. And suddenly, the tension escalates. More people get involved. Emotions rise. The real issue disappears. What could have ended quietly turns into a performance. Now imagine a different response. You pause. You breathe. You say nothing. The tension has nowhere to go. And slowly, the moment collapses under its own weight. Silence is not passive. Silence is selective strength. Here's something uncomfortable but true. Many people don't want resolution. They want reaction. They want to feel powerful, feel validated, feel seen. And the easiest way to get that is to trigger an emotional response in someone else. Anger feeds ego. Outrage creates connection. Drama creates attention. When you react, you give them exactly what they want. The book explains this simply. Your reaction is their reward. So what happens when you don't give it to them? When you stop reacting, something fascinating occurs. The dynamic changes. The person pushing you loses control of the interaction. Because they expected resistance, explanation, emotional fuel, and instead, they met calm. Non-reaction disrupts patterns. It forces others to confront themselves. And most people are deeply uncomfortable with that. This is why the calmest person in the room often holds the most influence. Not because they dominate, but because they are not easily moved. Your brain is wired to protect you. When it senses threat, real or imagined, it activates fight, flight, or freeze. Reacting is the fight response. But modern threats are rarely physical. They are emotional. And emotional threats require emotional intelligence, not emotional reflex.
Not reacting gives your rational mind time to step back into the room. It allows logic to catch up with emotion. It turns chaos into choice. The book makes a powerful distinction. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. One is unconscious. The other is controlled. And control is where power lives. Someone sends you a harsh message. Reaction says, "Reply now." Response says, "Wait." Reaction wants relief. Response wants results. And the people who win long-term always choose results. In the next part, we'll explore the role of ego, why most reactions are really about self-image, and how learning to detach doesn't make you weaker, it makes you untouchable. For now, remember this. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. And sometimes, the most powerful move is simply not reacting.
Ego, emotional triggers, and inner mastery. To truly understand why not reacting is so difficult, we need to talk about the ego. Not in an abstract or philosophical way, but in the way it shows up in your everyday life. The ego is not arrogance, it's identity. It's the part of you that whispers, "This is who I am. This is how I should be seen. This is what I must protect." And whenever that image feels threatened, the ego reacts. The book presents a simple truth. Whatever triggers you is showing you where you are attached. Attached to approval. Attached to being right. Attached to being respected. Attached to being understood. If a stranger insults you and you feel nothing, there is no trigger. But if someone questions your intelligence, your competence, your worth, and suddenly you feel heat rising, that's not the insult. That's attachment. Imagine someone questioning your decisions, not shouting, not attacking, just quietly doubting you. And inside, something tightens. You want to explain everything. You want to prove them wrong. Why? Because your ego feels exposed, and it wants armor. Reactions are not about the present moment. They are about the story you are telling yourself about who you are. Defensiveness feels protective, but it does the opposite. When you defend yourself emotionally, you signal that the attack landed, that it mattered, that it shook something inside you. The book explains this beautifully. Calm people don't need to convince. Secure people don't need to prove. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you felt the urge to explain yourself? And what were you really protecting? Choosing not to react is not suppression. It's self-respect. It's saying, I don't need to perform for this moment. I don't need to be understood right now. I trust myself enough to stay silent. This kind of silence is not empty. It's grounded. The ego wants to win every moment. Wisdom wants to win the long game. Instead of fearing your triggers, the book invites you to study them, because every trigger is a lesson. It shows you where you seek validation, where you fear judgment, where you've tied your worth to outcomes. When you feel triggered, pause and ask, what am I trying to protect?
The answer is almost never the situation itself. Next time something triggers you, don't react. Don't suppress. Just observe. Notice the sensation in your body. Notice the story in your mind. Notice the urge to act. And then, do nothing. Even for 5 seconds. That pause is where mastery begins. You don't overcome ego by fighting it. You overcome it by seeing it clearly. As the book makes clear, inner power is not loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't prove. It waits. And waiting is harder than reacting, but it's also where freedom lives. In the next part, we'll bring this into the real world. Workplace tension, relationships, conflict, disrespect. We'll explore how not reacting changes outcomes in ways most people never expect. For now, remember this. If someone can pull a reaction out of you, they are temporarily in control. If they can't, you are. So far, we've explored what not reacting means internally. Now it's time to bring it into the real world, because the true test of emotional mastery doesn't happen in quiet moments alone. It happens in conversations that feel unfair, in environments where pressure is constant, in relationships where emotions run deep. This is where not reacting becomes more than a concept. It becomes a skill. Let's start with work. Few places trigger reactions more reliably than professional environments. Criticism, competition, ego, power dynamics. Imagine a meeting where someone dismisses your idea. They don't insult you directly, they just move on, as if what you said didn't matter. The old pattern is familiar. You interrupt, you push your point, you feel the need to reclaim relevance. But the book offers a different approach. You stay quiet. You observe. You let the moment pass. Later, calmly, privately, you revisit the idea with clarity and evidence. No emotion, no tension, no performance. And suddenly, you are no longer reacting. You are strategizing. People who don't react impulsively are often perceived as more competent, not because they say more, but because they say less, with intention. Here's something rarely discussed. Emotional reactions flatten hierarchies. If a superior provokes an emotional response from you, they gain psychological leverage. If a colleague triggers you, they occupy space in your mind. Non-reaction protects your position. It keeps interactions professional, clean, and controlled. Now let's talk about relationships. This is where not reacting feels hardest, because emotions are closer to the surface, words land deeper, silence feels heavier. History amplifies everything. Someone says something hurtful. Your instinct says, respond now. Correct them. Defend yourself. But the book asks you to pause. Instead of reacting, you listen. Not to agree, not to submit, but to understand what's beneath the words. Often what sounds like attack is actually frustration. What sounds like anger is often fear. And reacting emotionally only hardens those layers. Not reacting doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means choosing the right moment to address it, with clarity, with boundaries, with calm. Conflict thrives on speed. Fast words, fast assumptions, fast reactions. When you slow down, conflict loses momentum. Silence introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty creates space for reflection, for both sides. Have you noticed how arguments often collapse when one person refuses to escalate? The book makes this clear. Emotional maturity is not about controlling others. It's about controlling your response to them. When you stop reacting, arguments shorten. Respect increases. Your presence feels heavier. Not louder, heavier. People begin to treat you differently when they realize they can't shake you emotionally. Not because you're distant, but because you're steady. In the next part, we'll turn this into daily practice. Simple habits, quiet techniques, small pauses that slowly rewire how you respond to the world. Because not reacting is not a personality trait, it's a muscle. And it can be trained.
Training the pause. Daily practices for emotional control.
Understanding the power of not reacting is one thing. Living it, day after day, is another. The book is honest about this. Non-reaction is not achieved through insight alone. It's built through practice. Small, quiet, consistent practice. At the center of everything is the pause. A pause is not hesitation. It's intention. Most reactions happen in less than a second, which means if you want to change your behavior, you don't need to change everything. You only need to slow down by a few moments. The next time you feel triggered, pause. Take one slow breath. Not to calm down, not to suppress, just to interrupt the pattern. That single breath creates distance, and distance creates choice. You don't need to control the emotion. You need to control the timing. The body reacts before the mind understands. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, a clenched jaw. The book encourages you to notice these signals early. They are warnings. When you recognize them, you can intervene before words escape your mouth. When you feel tension, lower your shoulders, relax your jaw, slow your breathing. These physical adjustments send a message to your nervous system. They tell it, we are safe. And safety quiets urgency. Many reactions come from attachment. Attachment to being right. Attachment to being liked. Attachment to controlling how things unfold. The book invites you to loosen that grip. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, in a month, in a year? Often the answer changes everything. Detachment is not indifference. It's perspective. Not reacting doesn't mean never speaking. It means choosing when. Some conversations are better had later, when emotions have settled, when clarity has returned, when words can land cleanly. Delaying a response is often the most powerful response. When unsure what to say nothing. Give yourself time. Clarity improves with distance. The book suggests a simple habit. At the end of the day, ask yourself, where did I react today? Where did I pause? What could I do differently tomorrow? Not with judgment, with curiosity. Growth happens quietly. Over time, these small practices compound. You begin to notice fewer arguments, calmer conversations, stronger boundaries. Not because others changed, but because you did. Non-reaction is not about perfection. You will still react sometimes, that's human. What matters is awareness, and awareness grows with practice. In the final part, we'll bring everything together. We'll reflect on what this way of living offers, and why true power is always quiet.
The quiet strength that changes everything. There comes a moment when you realize something important. Life doesn't become calmer because the world changes. It becomes calmer because you do. The book, The Power of Not Reacting, is ultimately about this shift.
A shift from urgency to awareness, from impulse to intention, from noise to quiet strength. What we often associate power with force, with dominance, with control over others. But the book gently dismantles this idea. Real power is subtle. It's the ability to stay steady when everything around you is pulling. It's the confidence to remain silent when ego wants the last word. It's knowing that you don't need to prove yourself to be secure. The most powerful people are not easily offended, not because they are superior, but because they are rooted. When you stop reacting automatically, something opens. Freedom. Freedom from other people's moods, freedom from emotional manipulation, freedom from constant inner conflict. You stop living at the mercy of every comment, every message, every situation, and slowly, life feels lighter. Imagine waking up and moving through your day without carrying unresolved tension. No replaying conversations, no imaginary arguments, no emotional exhaustion. Just presence. This is not indifference. It's peace. Here's a surprising outcome the book highlights. When you stop reacting, people often respect you more. Not because you demand it, but because your calm sets a boundary. People sense what they can't control, what they can't provoke, what they must approach with care. Your silence becomes weight. Your words, when spoken, carry meaning. This way of living is not a destination. It's a practice. Some days you'll pause beautifully. Other days you'll react. That doesn't mean failure. It means awareness is growing. Each pause rewires you. Each moment of restraint builds inner strength. And over time, your default state changes. You don't master not reacting by force. You master it by noticing. The book leaves us with a quiet but powerful truth. You are not required to respond to everything. You don't owe reactions. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe emotional labor to every situation. What you owe yourself is clarity. And clarity comes from stillness. So the next time life tries to rush you, the next time someone pushes your buttons, the next time you feel the familiar urge to react immediately, remember this. Pause. Breathe. Choose. Because the moment you stop reacting blindly, you begin living deliberately. And that, quietly, steadily, changes everything.
And that was the core of today's book. Remember, one powerful idea, understood deeply, can slowly change the way you think, and eventually, the way you live. If this summary added value to your day, stay with us. More books, more clarity, right here on Bookaffeine.